Hey guys, welcome to Gadgets 360, and today we'll be unboxing two new Realme smartphones, the Realme C25 and the C21. So let's get started. Before we go ahead, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and also hit that bell icon so you're the first to know whenever we have a new video. Okay, so these are the retail boxes of the Realme C25 and the C21. Pretty similar packaging. So let's quickly crack open the seals of these boxes and see what we get inside. So let's start with the C21. All right. Okay, so inside we have this little leaflet as usual. Let's see. Yeah, we have some safety instructions. There is SIM eject tool here. Further in, we have the phone itself. So this is our first look at the C21. Pretty nice finish at the back. Further in, we have a pretty large brick, although very light charging brick. And we have the micro USB cable, since this has a micro USB port. And that's about it. Okay, now let's take a look at what you get inside the C25. And I am expecting a pretty similar bundle, but let's open it up and see for sure. Okay, similar kind of a leaflet thingy here. Quick start guide. We have the SIM eject tool, and we have the C25. A little chunkier and heavier than the C21. We'll get to the specifications in just a bit. We have a similarly sized charging brick, however this does feel a little heavier than the one you get in the C21. And this one, in this box you get a USB Type-C cable, which is nice, which means the C25 has a Type-C port. And once again, that's pretty much it for all the box contents of the C25. Okay, so now that we've gone ahead and done the unboxing, let's take a closer look at the Realme C21 and the C25. So this is the 21, this is the C25, and there's also a third phone, which is the C20, which I do not have with me, but we will talk about that as well, since it is actually very similar to the C21, or can be seen as a lower cost version of the C21. Let's start with the physical design. Now, as you can see, both these phones share a very similar design aesthetic. They both have this matte texture finish with this like dual pattern on the back. The patterns are slightly different, but it's pretty similar otherwise. The Realme logo, or the way it's written, is again slightly different on the higher end version, which is the C25 compared to the C21. Both the phones have fingerprint sensors at the back. You get this triple camera cluster as well. Over to this side, we have the physical buttons, which is the volume and power. Down at the bottom, there is a slight difference. The C25 has a USB Type-C port, whereas the C21 and the C20 will have micro USB ports, but you still get a headphone jack on both phones. And we have a speaker grill over here, whereas the C21 has a speaker grill at the back. Over to the side, again, we have a triple slot tray, so you can have 2 nano SIMs and a micro SD card. And this goes for the C20 as well. Now in the front, you have both similar looking displays, because there's the 6.5-inch LCD panel with an HD plus resolution. And you get a similar type of a notch cut out on the top for the selfie camera, and relatively thick bezels all around, especially the chin at the bottom, as you can see. Okay, so let's put the C25 aside for now, and let's maybe focus on the C21, and we'll also talk about the C20 as to what's different in that phone. So all these three phones are basically the new generation C series, which mean they will eventually replace the current C11, C12 and C15 smartphones from Realme. Now looking at the C21, the big highlight for all these phones is battery life. So the C21 and by extension the C20 has a 5000 milliamp hour battery inside, which is pretty good. Although the charging is still limited to 10 watts. So you get a 10 watt adapter in the box, and both will have a micro USB port. So no fast charging for these models. Powering the phone is a MediaTek Helio G35. Again, it's the similar SoC that we saw in the C12 and the C15 as well. And Realme has stuck with that SoC from MediaTek. And in terms of software, you get Realme UI 1.0 for now, as this is still based on Android 10. Okay, so in the front, as I mentioned earlier, it's a 6.5-inch HD Plus display, but it does get a blue light certification, or basically a certification for low blue light emissions from TÜV Rheinland for the C21 and the C25. Now coming to the specs, accompanying this MediaTek Helio G35 are two RAM and storage variants. So one is with 3 GB of RAM and 32 GB of storage, and then you have another one with 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of storage. At the back, we have a triple camera setup. So you have a 13 megapixel primary, you get a 2 megapixel macro, and a 2 megapixel monochrome camera. And in the front, there is a 5 megapixel selfie camera. Now, since the C20 is supposed to be a low-cost version of the C21, so it's essentially the same phone, but there are some differences. Now, the C20 is only going to be available in one variant with 2 GB of RAM and 32 GB of storage. And the rear camera, you only get one camera, which is an 8 megapixel sensor, whereas it's the same 5 megapixel selfie camera in the front. But the rest of the specifications, including the battery life and the battery capacity and the SoC, are very similar to the C21. So let's turn our attention to the C25. Now, this is supposed to be an upgrade to the Realme C15, and this is a pretty decent upgrade compared to even the C21. So the C25 has a 6000 milliamp hour battery, which means you should get longer battery life. But more importantly, it also has a USB Type-C port, which does support up to 18 watt fast charging. And the power brick we saw earlier is an 18 watt power adapter. So you get that in the box, which is really good. Other than that, another big change is, of course, the SoC. So Realme has used the MediaTek Helio G70 SoC, which is a big step up from the G35. So we should be able to expect a better system as well as gaming performance. In terms of variants, there are two variants of the C25. There's one with 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of storage, and another with 4 GB of RAM and 128 GB of storage. So 4 GB of RAM is constant no matter which storage variant you pick. And in terms of software, is also another neat little upgrade. So unlike the C21, the C25 comes with Realme UI version 2.0 right out of the box, which, as you can see, is based on Android 11, which is really cool. The camera setup is pretty similar at the back. It's a triple camera with a 13 megapixel primary. You get a 2 megapixel macro and a 2 megapixel monochrome. But the front selfie camera is upgraded. It's an 8 megapixel camera instead of a 5 megapixel one on the other phones. Other than that, you still get a 6.5-inch HD Plus display with, again, low blue light certification from TÜV Rheinland. And that's pretty much it for the C25. So that is a quick first look at the Realme C25 and the Realme C21. Stay tuned for the full review of these two smartphones coming very soon only on Gadgets 360.